Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining today's demo day presented by GEM. My name is Kelly Menold, and I'll be your moderator today. On today's demo day, Maria Latt will be doing a deep dive into the diversity analytics features of GEM's recruiting platform. Before I hand the mic over to Maria, I want to quickly go over a few housekeeping items. First, today's webinar is being recorded and will be available on demand after the live session. We've also added some additional resources which are available through the related content section of your webinar console. There you can find case studies, one-pagers on GEM's capabilities, and an opportunity to request a personalized demo of GEM. We'd like to make today's demo as interactive as possible. If you have a question for Maria, please feel free to send it through the Ask a Question section of the webinar console. We'll do our best to answer these as they come in, but we'll also have time for Q&A at the end of today's demo. I expect we'll have a lot of questions asked, and some may require more dialogue or details on your individual use case. So if we don't have a chance to answer your question during today's webinar, we'll be sure to follow up with you afterward. With that, I'd like to introduce our presenter for today's demo, Maria Latt, who is a Senior Solutions Consultant here at GEM. Maria, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly. And hi, everyone. So excited to be here today. As Kelly mentioned, I am a Senior Solutions Consultant here at GEM, and my role is to ensure that customers and prospects like yourself are able to find the right solutions to solve your recruiting challenges with GEM. So for today, I'll be talking about how GEM can help you build a rich and ready pipeline to meet your diversity goals. Fun fact, I used to be a recruiter myself, so definitely no stranger to the challenges that you all face today. What I'll do is I'll spend about 5 to 10 minutes giving you a background on how GEM came to be, what we're doing, and then spend most of our time together in a live demonstration of the GEM platform. So welcome, everyone, whether you use GEM today or not. Virtual hello to everyone on the line. So a little bit about GEM, why GEM? Many organizations find it difficult to attract qualified talent that will drive the next wave of innovation at their company. And we're seeing this challenge across the industry, from large enterprise customers like Cisco and McDonald's to agile tech companies with amazing brands like Slack, Peloton, and DoorDash. That's why GEM was created, with the fundamental belief that the traditional ways of recruiting, like managing candidates from inbound sources like career pages, posting on job sites, etc., are no longer sufficient to attract the levels of top talent required to compete in today's digital economy, especially as it becomes harder and harder to find the right talent for key roles. So think data scientists, software engineers, or really any hard-to-fill role, because more and more companies are competing for candidates across the same limited talent pools. The challenge of maintaining a healthy pipeline is compounded by the need to attract for diverse talent. For organizations that value diversity, this makes the pipeline problem even harder because our inbound applicants don't always represent the most diverse talent pools, and we have no control over who applies. These challenges have driven companies to look at better ways to engage with talent where it is in the market. And that's why companies from Cisco to Twilio are taking a more proactive approach to engaging with passive talent rather than waiting for the right people to apply. That's why GEM was started. GEM's founders were engineering managers at high growth companies. As hiring managers, they quickly realized that the traditional tech stack for recruiting wasn't built to support the passive nurture of talent. Because ATSs were designed to track inbound applicants, this leaves most recruiting organizations stuck with managing relationships and passive talent outreach in manual, time-consuming, and error-prone processes like spreadsheets, one-off in-mails, and emails. This means a poor candidate experience, and so many missed opportunities in engaging with top talent when the timing is right. GEM was created to fill that void that exists in the market, a purpose-built platform to manage passive talent engagement and give recruiting teams that workflow, the automation, and analytics they need to be more efficient and consistently build great and diverse teams. And one of the great things about GEM is because all of these passive talent relationships are now tracked in one central place, you'll get much more visibility and predictability into your own hiring funnels, allowing your team to make more data-driven approach to recruiting and hiring. So with that, we'll jump into a live demo of GEM. Okay, so bear with me here as I get my screen together. All right, so in a second here, you should be able to see the GEM platform. Give it a second here as that connects. All right, so I'm in the GEM platform. You should be seeing the GEM logo at the top left-hand corner. But essentially what you're seeing is an executive summary of all the things that are going on recruiting activity-wise within your organization. So let's imagine I'm a recruiting manager at GEM, and I want to understand how we're doing as a company in terms of recruiting activity and how we're trending towards our goals. Let's say, for example, we have a really big focus on sales. So what I'll do here is I'll focus in on just our sales department. And what I'm able to do is that recruiting managers understand things like how many folks have we hired in the last 6 months? You know, where have most of our hires come from? Is it prospecting? Is it our marketing? Is it company spend on agencies, right? What's the average time to hire? So right away, what this is telling me is that recruiting managers that we should definitely continue focusing our time prospecting for sales because we've been pretty successful thus far. As I scroll down, I'm seeing something that you probably are all familiar with is the gender disparity in some roles and departments. So within sales so far, it looks like most of our new hires are men or male identifying. So for me, as I'm working with my team, this is something that we can now hone in on and know going into the last half of the year that we can focus on ramping up our recruiting efforts for women, particularly in sales. Engineering, of course, is where we're always seeing this type of gender disparity. The good news is, at least for us, the offer acceptance rates is looking great. It's at a 90%, which is great. So knowing what I know now, as long as we can get these candidates to the on-site interview, get them to the offer stage, it's pretty likely these candidates will accept. But again, as a recruiting manager, as a recruiting lead, this gives me the insight that I need to take to my leadership on what we're doing in the last half of the year to be successful in hitting our hiring goals. And so how do we source within GEM? How does this make it easier for our team to be successful out in the field? So the one way that you can utilize GEM is within your sourcing efforts, particularly within LinkedIn. So with LinkedIn, but also other sites today like GitHub, Twitter, Facebook, we are where your teams are at when they're sourcing for talent. And so as our focus is on building a diverse pipeline and diversity across our hiring, I did want to point out that sourcing underrepresented groups is so important today. So for me, as I look at those metrics, right, I want to target not only women, but always, finding diversity in our new hires. So particularly women of color, those that don't necessarily find within our sales team. So let's say, for example, I find this candidate, Brianna. I think she's great. This is somebody that I want to bring onto GEM, have that dialogue, see if we can add her to our enterprise sales team. And so as we know, most channels like referrals, for example, or inbound applicants are inherently less diverse. So of course, like myself going on LinkedIn, this is the one way. If your team isn't proactively sourcing and nurturing a diverse talent pool, you won't see a diverse pipeline, you won't have diverse interviews, and at the end of the day, won't have diverse hires. Some tips on how to use whether it's hashtags or searches within LinkedIn. My recommendation be one of the following, right? So looking for those that come from predominantly underrepresented or groups that serve underrepresented minorities. So historically Black colleges are a great way. So as you're on LinkedIn, maybe searching on those types of schools. Also searching on professional organizations. So for those of you recruiting for engineering roles, maybe Society of Women Engineers might be a great way, great search or professional organization you can tap into. And also what's a really cool thing is searching on hashtags. So things like lesbian who tech or Latinx in tech, and finding candidates in those networks that you might not necessarily be finding in your own searches. So, okay, so great. So we have landed on Brianna's profile and we really like her background, think she'd be a great fit. So as you're seeing on the right-hand side, this is our GEM extension. And the GEM extension makes it easier for you to know what we already know about Brianna. So for example, if the candidate has already applied to a role at GEM or your organization, you'll be able to see that here. If somebody at your organization viewed the candidate's profile, so it looks like Matt on my team has viewed Brianna's profile in the past, you'll be able to see that here. And the other cool thing is being able to see email addresses. So we found that interacting and engaging with candidates via email will drive your response rate way higher. I know a lot of candidates today are bombarded with a ton of emails, and you might be one of them out there that find that candidates are not responding to them. So we find that reaching out to those candidates directly via email will increase those response rates. So with one click here, I'm going to save this PDF of Brianna's profile. And what that'll do is it'll unlock the extension to give us all that good information that GEM is able to provide. So what I can do is go into the activity. This is going to give me a brief rundown of all the different interactions, who's viewed her profile, if anyone messaged Brianna in the past. I'll head back to the overview because this is where I can see which requisition exactly maybe Brianna applied to as well. And seeing any of those emails served up right here is going to help me reach out to Brianna, have that more personal connection, and anything sitting on her profile. So it being, last name, first name, obviously company, title, things like that are all the nuggets that we can pull into the GEM platform. So it's avoiding any of the rekeying, re-entering of information. And from here, a best practice that we recommend is one, adding candidates like Brianna to a project or a talent pool. This is going to help you all nurture, track, and engage these candidates so that you're able to grow those pipelines so that when you are ready to hire these individuals, if it's more of a passive pipeline, or if this is an urgent role we need to fill, that we're able to get all those candidates in one central place. And what you're able to do is what I'm going to do here just individually on Brianna's profile. Let's say this is somebody I want to engage with right now. I can actually send Brianna an email, and better yet, add her to a sequence, which is that first email, but also follow-up emails from there so that we're able to catch Brianna, whether it's the second email, the third email. So what's nice about this is that it's just a one click, right? It's a set and forget. We send out that first email, make it super personalized. If, for example, Brianna doesn't reply back in, let's say, 6 days or however many days you'd like to set this up, you can have a follow-up email send right after that. And what's more interesting from there is you can actually send that follow-up email on behalf of someone else at your organization. So for example, I'm going to have Matt, our VP of go-to-market, be that follow-up email after mine to make it a little bit more personalized. But it can be, our VP of sales, it could be our CEO. And this way we're really able to make Brianna feel special, really perk her ears and eyes, and really taking a look at GEM here. All of the information is tracked, so if she does click on any links that are in here, great. And we do find that a 4-stage sequence and a more long-term nurture mindset is going to grab that candidate once they feel like, maybe I am intrigued and ready to make a move, or we catch them at the right time. We've given them all the information they need to know. Now it's up to them on, following up from here. So all of this is tracked. You see all of the great content within the emails here, but you're going to be able to see all of the activity that Brianna will have as she engages with these emails. So a really cool thing. And yeah, very much a set and forget as mentioned. So that's one way that we can help you source for talent on LinkedIn or any one of those places today that you source for talent. Another way that you can get candidates into GEM is through your events. So for all of us today that have been living in a virtual world in the past year or so, and perhaps still continuing on, I know a lot of you have been increasing your virtual presence. So as we think about those virtual events, those lunch and learns, webinar series, you can actually utilize GEM to be that event registration so you can capture all the attendee information and add them to your talent pools. What's really great about GEM is this is all configurable. So from every field that you see here, you can even have a custom question, as you can see here. If you could have magic powers, what would it be? Maybe asking some really important information to see if they're a good fit, and to see if there are certain key go, no-go things for candidates today, such as, is it important for your employer to have employee resource groups or affinity groups where you work? So any type of question that you want to ask, you can include on these forms, and all the candidates that fill this out, they will funnel right into GEM, right into a project. So again, you can continue nurture, tracking, and engaging these candidates. Tip here, all you'll do is take the URL and share it out in your social media platforms. As mentioned, using those hashtags we mentioned earlier to grab those candidates from all networks that maybe today you're not necessarily a part of. Great way to also get your teams involved. So if you're hiring predominantly for engineering, have your engineering teams reach out to their networks, post it on their LinkedIn to get as many of their contacts and connections getting their eyes on your events. Another way that we can help bring your pipelines into GEM is by uploading a spreadsheet of those candidates. So for those of you that do participate in things like a Grace Hopper or National Black MBA, and you have spreadsheets from those conferences, rest assured that we'll be able to bring all that information into GEM. So let's say, for example, right, event has closed, they give you all the candidates interested in your organization. With one click here, you can upload that CSV. We also do support, we also do have support that will help you. We do have customer success managers that are able to assist you if, for example, those files are pretty large. Our team is very supportive in ensuring that no pipeline or talent pool that you have today sitting in any spreadsheet or database is lost, and will help port them right into the GEM platform. Awesome. And quick plug here, it's coming very soon, but is the ability for you all to source for talent within your ATS. So think of those silver medalists, those candidates that were probably second best in line. You ended up going with another candidate for your sales team, but 6 months later, you're hiring again. They might be a really great fit. So what you're able to do very soon is source for candidates within your ATS. Again, those silver medalists, so that you all can work off of a pipeline and talent pool of candidates that are just sitting in your ATS today that, again, at one point were the next best thing, and hopefully maybe in a couple months might be ready to make a move. So we can consider those candidates as one you can pull into GEM here very soon. All right, great. So I'm going to pause here, look for see if there's any questions. I know Kelly has been helping me with those. So just going to pause here before we switch gears into what you're able to see within the GEM platform in terms of diversity metrics. Okay.
Hey, Maria, we did receive one question about, can you source from places other than LinkedIn into GEM, such as Indeed, GitHub, etc.?
Yeah, great question. So you certainly can. We support sourcing from Twitter, Facebook, GitHub, and LinkedIn today. What you can also do is manually upload those candidates into GEM as well. So whether it's one, candidate here and there, you can do that, or in a spreadsheet, you can certainly upload those. But those are the places today where the Chrome extension will work. Awesome. So switching gears here over to the...
one more question regarding the tech, actually, the webinar console. Someone asked how you can increase the size of the presentation so that you can see all of Maria's screen. You should see on the corner of the presentation box where you see her screen, you should be able to drag the arrows and make it larger. Back to you, Maria.
Awesome. Great. I do see a couple things here that I'll be covering next. Is that I did see a question around, can you filter by diversity? And yes, you can. I'll be covering that here in the second half. And yes, I think another one came very similar to that is, can you help measure diversity? Yes, we will cover that here in the second half. I think another question did come through around an inclusive list of places to recruit from, like HBCUs, things like that. We do have a really great blog where we do share a lot of best practices, hashtags that we've seen be successful. So that's something that I recommend going to gem.com/blog, and there is a lot of great content there for diversity. But I will continue on here and definitely let the questions keep going. We'll address those as well. All right, so now that we've walked through how to get candidates into GEM, what kind of metrics can you expect within the GEM platform to help with our diversity goals? So we'll start at the very top of funnel, which is that sourcing and outreach. So as that recruiting manager, right, let's imagine, we just started off June, we had a really great May, and we want to make sure to keep that momentum going. So as a recruiting manager, I can just jump into our outreach stats, which will give me all of that activity at the very top of the funnel. And as we mentioned, just want to hone in on sales right now, but imagine your departments today that you're recruiting for. And this is going to give me all of my team's recruiting, sourcing activity and outreach activity broken down by month. There's many ways you can slice and dice this, so I'll walk through this very slowly so that you can see what I'm seeing on my screen. But I can see for each month how many outreach messages were sent. Looks like so far doing pretty well. Hopefully we'll get above what we did in May. And from here you can see what the open rates are so that you can understand, of our messaging, what is the percentage of candidates opening our emails? And from there, how many are replying? Right. So it looks like overall February was a really great month in terms of reply rates. So perhaps this is a metric we can look back at and see what was our messaging there. So far in June, maybe it's a summer thing, but also maybe it's our messaging that we need to tweak. Certainly want to take a look at that. But as our focus is on diversity, I'll hone in on a few things. Let's start with gender, and then we'll go into race and ethnicity. So as we saw in the beginning on that dashboard, we have a gender disparity for our sales team. So I want to understand as that recruiting manager where we're having any pipeline issues. So for June so far, it looks like we've reached out to a good amount of candidates, but it looks like still trending a little bit heavy on reaching out to more men or more male identifying candidates. And same thing for May. So this might just be something we need to be a little bit more on top of. Obviously, 50-50 would be ideal, but think about the types of KPIs and metrics that you all have for your team and your department. So for engineering, I'm sure same issue, right? Gender disparity. What can we do in terms of a messaging that's going to resonate better with women? It looks like so far, though, our open rates are okay. They're pretty equal across the board. So really what this is telling me is we just need to do a better job of reaching out to women at the top of the funnel. Now let's do race and ethnicity so we can see that broken down. So here, rather than seeing the breakdown being between men and women, we're now able to see it between all the different ethnic groups. So as you can see here, it's broken out, and so we can understand how many outreaches went to Black, Latinx, Asian, and white candidates. And from there, what is the open rates and the reply rates? So again, a pipeline issue, we're seeing a lot more outreach for white candidates and Asian candidates as well. So as we think about the last half of June and even the last half of the year, could we be doing a better job as a sales organization reaching out to more diverse candidates? So I'll pause here. I know this is some insightful information, but as a former recruiter myself, having these types of metrics early on is really going to help me as a recruiting lead, as a manager, and even leadership really open my eyes to seeing where our team is spending the most time. What's really cool about this is you're seeing this broken out by month. But if, for example, maybe a team member is a little bit more successful reaching more of those underrepresented minority groups, can we learn something from them, right? So here it's now broken out by recruiter. So I can see Bella and her outreach activity, and it broken down by the different race and ethnicity groups. Same with Bruce. And again, this is a great way where we can learn from each other and see, is there something that Bruce is doing differently that we can maybe take and maybe take his templates and maybe understand his outreach activity. So great for those leaders there that can tap into our individual contributors to give them that spotlight and learn a thing or two from them. So that's in terms of the outreach and open and click rates. What we can also do within outreach stats is understand where our team is spending the most time. So again, being in a remote world, it's very hard to understand what everyone is working on if they're not updating their spreadsheets or you're not having those one-on-ones with your team. We make it easy for you to see month over month, but also team member to team member, where they're spending the most time. How many views on LinkedIn are they doing? How many candidates did they add to GEM? How many of those actually converted to those that are active applicants in the process? So this is, to me, giving me that snapshot of where the team is spending the most time. And again, we can add additional layers from here if I wanted to do this by project. So maybe different sales roles. Maybe I want to break this down again by gender, race, and ethnicity. I can do that as well. So many parts of the GEM platform, we're able to do that to help you all get that bird's eye view, that snapshot of where we are lacking and where we need to tweak the process today. Awesome. Great. And so that's for the outreach stats. A story I will share within this view here is with Lyft. So Lyft is one of our customers, and shout out to anyone on the line who is from the Lyft organization listening in. But they're one of our customers that we've been working with, and when we first started working with, let us know that their DEI goals are super ambitious. They consider that higher than industry norms. Their goal is to have 25% of their pipeline at top of funnel need to come from diverse backgrounds. And before GEM, they had no control over diversity. Of course, they were getting a ton of applicants and referrals, as you can imagine, with a brand like Lyft. So with GEM, what they were able to do is understand gender and ethnicity in their pipelines, even from the very top of funnel, as you're seeing here. They're able to also address any disparities that they're seeing across the board. So in a second here, I'll walk you through another part of our platform that dives into analytics here deeper. But what they're able to do is dive in and understand how the team can work smarter, not necessarily harder, and achieve their goals without necessarily having to add more headcount or more resources. All right, so we talked through top of funnel. Now let's talk through the application activity and the ATS activity as well. So I mentioned we do integrate with ATSs. So what you'll be able to see here is a breakdown of your funnel, whether you want to do from very first outreach to hire or just hone in on activity within the ATS. You can view that within GEM. So I'll just focus on ATS activity since we went through that outreach there. But I like to call this the hello to hire funnel, right? I can see everyone from the very top to the very bottom from those that we're bringing on board to GEM. So let's say, again, we want to focus our attention here on sales because we're focusing on growing that team. But we make it easy for you all who are recruiting for multiple departments, whether it's engineering, product, or maybe it's sales, customer success. You can hone in on your own individual departments here. And as you scroll down, you'll be able to see the roles that correspond with your department. And a couple things here. You can see the pass-through rates from stage to stage. So from here, I can see, okay, we started with this many applications for, let's say, this sales development role. 60% of them made it to pre-interview. So these are what we call pass-through rates. So what percentage of candidates made it to the next stage and the next stage? And are we seeing any drop-off between stages? And is there anything that we can do to tweak that to ensure that we're providing not only a great candidate experience, but that we're finding the right talent and we're getting the right candidates through the door? So from here, this is where I can also add that additional layer of gender, race, and diversity. So let's start with gender here. So in addition to the role and the pass-through rates, down below, you're seeing it broken out by men and women. And what's great about this as a recruiting manager is I can, with just one glance, see red, yellow, green, and focus my eyes on the parts where I'm seeing some drop off. So with that, as you're seeing some green pass-through rates, which is great, we're also seeing some red and yellow. And what I want to focus on is, compared to men, are women dropping off at disproportionate rates? And can we as a team address that issue? So for this first role, for this senior sales development role, I'm seeing a drop off from pre-interview to phone interview. So what that tells me is maybe this is a place that we can focus in on and maybe talk to our team members, right? Is there a reason why women are dropping out? Are they not necessarily finding that this is a place for them, or is it that we're not preparing them for the next stage in the process with, a hiring manager phone call? And so what we found with some of our customers is, one story that comes to mind is Pure Storage. They were finding a lack of gender diversity in their new hires within engineering. They had no insight to where women were dropping off and were relying way too heavily on referrals before using GEM. And then when they onboarded, they found that their pass rates were actually pretty similar across the board. And for them, they found that the drop off was actually closing at the end. They were finding it was really hard for those female candidates to get to that on-site and for the Pure Storage team to close. And that's something that, without GEM, they were probably in the dark about and going to be, right? Because until they used GEM, they didn't have this kind of visibility. In fact, Angela Miller, who's the Senior Director of Global TA and Ops at Pure Storage, even said that they have way more visibility in GEM versus, compared to their ATS on pass-through rates in all of their pipelines. And we have many stories like this. I know Dropbox is another, on-site to offer stages for some of their roles, particularly technical roles. They're finding that with underrepresented minority groups, they were dropping out, and they were just finding that there was not as much diversity in those panels. And what they did was they had a prep call for those candidates with more non-traditional and diverse backgrounds. Be confident and have that prep call with the recruiter and someone on the team. They were also able to meet with a diverse panel. So anything like that we can now be proactive on is going to help the candidate experience. It's going to help the interview process and the brand. So this is men versus women. Let's go ahead and switch gears over to race and ethnicity. So as you can see here, very similar to the funnel that we saw earlier, we're able to now break this down by race and ethnicity. So we can see in these pipelines where certain minority groups, certain groups are dropping out in the process. So for me, as a recruiting lead, wanting to ensure, a fair and equitable process, it's important for me to address where there are drop-offs. So here for this first role, right, we're again seeing that pre-interview to phone interview drop-off. Is there anything that we can do better as a team to get candidates to be more prepared for those hiring manager interviews? Could they brush up on some content? And you can see this across the board for all of our roles, right? So what's really cool about GEM is not only being able to see the pass-through rates, but if, for example, let's say we have a goal of bringing on at least 2 senior sales development reps on the team that are from an underrepresented group. What we can do is, based on our historical pass-through rates, give you the data to say, okay, if your goal is 2, then you're going to need at least 32 candidates that identify as Latinx to be in your pipeline for you to make those 2 hires. So it's helping us be a little bit more conscious and mindful as we go through the sourcing and also going through the applicants that come through the process, ensuring that we're providing a diverse slate of candidates to our hiring teams. Yeah, so I'll pause here and get some, answer some questions. So one question came through, only lists gender. Okay, so hopefully, Lynn, that you saw that I was able to update, within your GEM account. Okay, so great question. For those of you that are already GEM users and can only see gender but not race and ethnicity, what we can do is work with your customer success manager on turning on race and ethnicity for you to view within your account. So that's a really great question. We can certainly follow up with your customer success managers to see if perhaps it was a decision made or perhaps it's just not turned on for you today. We'll get that follow up for you all. Great.
Cool. I guess we can probably jump into Q&A now. If you want to stop sharing your screen, Maria.
Yeah, of course.
All right, so now that you've seen a high-level demo of GEM, I want to quickly give our audience an opportunity to request a personalized demo of GEM, so you can dive a bit deeper into the product based on your individual setup. You should see a poll question pop up now that says, would you like to schedule a personalized demo of GEM? Click yes or no, and we'll have someone follow up with you if needed. With that, we're going to kick off our Q&A. We've had a lot of great questions come through, but I want to remind the audience that you can submit questions using the Ask a Question window in the webinar console. Okay, so we've answered a few of the questions that came in, but there are a couple other ones. One is, how are candidates being added? Are they members? How many applicants are available? I think this is just in regards to getting candidates in GEM and kind of what the possibilities look like for sourcing into GEM.
Yeah, great question. And there's a number of ways. I went through a few of them, but these candidates that you're seeing in GEM are coming from the ways that you source for talent today. So whether it's, LinkedIn or any of those recruiting sites where you're, Seek Out's another one, whether it's, you host a recruiting event, you want to use our event registration forms. That's how candidates get into GEM. You can also upload spreadsheets of candidates or add them manually. But we found that most of our customers pull in candidates from LinkedIn, GitHub, Twitter, Seek Out, things like that.
Great. Next question is, how does GEM gather the race and ethnicity information?
Yeah, so what we do is we use an algorithm that takes first name, last name, location, and global public data sets. So think US Census data, for example, and provides a prediction on the race and ethnicity as well as gender of the candidate. Now, we use this data for more directional correctness. So what I mean by that is we do not display this information on an individual candidate profile. What we do is we take this data and present it to you in this format of more of like a pipeline and percentages, so that as you're sourcing, as you're looking at candidates in your funnel, that we're mindful of the breakdown of diversity, whether it's gender or race and ethnicity. You have those insights so that as you think of the last half of the year or whatever your KPIs are, that we're able to help you get there with that data. So in terms of the accuracy of the data, for gender, it's at a 95%. For race and ethnicity, it's somewhere, depends really between 75% to 85, sometimes 95%. As we've worked with customers, some of our customers, I think of one recently that had a QBR, they actually tracked it on the side and made sure to compare their data with our data, and it was very similar. So in terms of accuracy, it's been pretty successful for many of the customers today that have been trying to track it on their own just to compare what the results are like.
Great, thank you. And then another question we got is GEM for internal company recruiting or for staffing industries?
Great question. So we do have a few customers today that are within the staffing industry. So there is a way to utilize GEM today if you are within the staffing industry. So it can work for both. We do have a majority of our customers are recruiting teams in-house, but if you are someone who works at a staffing firm, staffing agency, and want to utilize GEM, you could use that as well.
Next question is, can you source by race or ethnicity through GEM?
Can you source by race and ethnicity with GEM? That's a great question. So again, with our analytics, we provide you with the data of how diverse your pipeline is. Now, to go out and proactively find diverse candidates, we have recommendations. We do have customers today that we partner with, such as companies that we partner with today, such as like Seek Out, that can help bring you more diverse talent in that sense. And then GEM provides the analytics on the back end once we have the candidates in the platform.
Okay, another, I think you just answered this, but to reiterate, this is more about macro level metrics tracking, not necessarily to identify individual diverse candidates, right?
Can you say that one more time? Sorry.
GEM is more about macro level metrics tracking for race, ethnicity, and gender rather than specific individual diversity.
Correct. Yep.
All right. I think that's all we have time for. We did have one more question about will this be recording or will there be a recording of this? The answer is yes, this is being recorded and you should receive the recording within the next hour so you can watch it again or share it with your teammates. So with that, thank you, Maria, for your time, and thank you to our audience for your attention and your great questions. If you didn't have time to ask your question, or if we didn't have time to answer it, please email us at sales@gem.com. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you.